This is IHW superstar James Liberty Steele, and you're listening to Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Carlan, and we are part of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. And today we have a special guest, another special guest. We always have great guests here on the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast, and today is no exception. You might have seen him recently on 205 Live. He's killing it right now in the Maritimes area, former IHW television champion. Please help me welcome Mr. James Liberty Steele. James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Hey, the pleasure's all mine, man. The pleasure's all mine. So let me get right into it, man. How did the 205 Live appearance with Noam Dar come about?
Right place, the right time. That's all I can really say about that. I mean, I got invited to WWE for Extra Talent. This is the second time going now, and I was just the guy they were looking for. Kind of, that's the old cliche, right? You know, sure. What they need at that moment, that time. I fit the bill. I fit the weight class. So I just all circumstantial.
All right, there you go. So what was it like? You know. If I'm not mistaken, this had to be the biggest crowd that you've ever wrestled in front of. So what was it like walking through the curtain and being in front of that large WWE crowd, or I should say 205 Live crowd? Were you nervous? Were the butterflies going around in your stomach? What were you thinking right as you were about to walk through that curtain?
Surprisingly, I wasn't nervous, and when I walked through the curtain and walked to the ring. And all I could think about was everything that led me to get to where I'm at, and the things that I've done, the training that I've done, the guys that I've been in the ring with that helped me get better. And to be standing there, I honestly couldn't believe I wasn't even nervous. I just treated it like any other show, any other match, any other time I've been in the ring. And to be out there in front of, I'm not even sure what the attendance was. I'm going to say 15 to 17,000 people when you're only used to like 500 like myself. Sure. It can get a little overwhelming, but you just feed off it. And that's all I did was I just fed off of it. And I wasn't nervous. I wasn't, I've been doing this long enough to kind of know, there's no sense of getting nervous when you got a performance to do, because you just got to go out and deliver.
Sure. How did they come up with the name Mark Thomas? Was that just something they threw together, or what? How did they come up with the name Mark Thomas? How come they can't just use James Steele? I was just wondering about that.
I honestly don't know how they come up with Mark Thomas.
Okay.
They came over and they asked me what my name was, working wise. I told them I wrestled under James Steele, James Liberty, and they asked me what my real name was. I told them. And I said, I know that's not really a catchy name. And the guy kind of laughed. He said, that's okay. He's like, I'll come back with you in a few minutes. I never heard from them again until like probably 25 minutes to a half an hour before I'm going out. And they're like, you're Mark Thomas.
Okay. And of course you're like, all right, fine. I'll be whoever you want to be, because I'm going out there regardless, man.
I'll be Oscar the Grouch if you want me to be.
You'll be Oscar the Grouch, absolutely, man. So is this just the start of? Are we going to see you again on 205 Live? Or I personally have seen you wrestle many times, and I think you're very, very talented. I think you belong in NXT. So are we going to see you again on 205 Live or NXT anytime soon?
First off, I appreciate the compliment, and you never know. There's no contract or anything. It was just a one-off thing right now. But it doesn't mean that they didn't like my stuff and they didn't like my personality. So you never know. Who knows, right? It's all up in the air right now.
Well, I mean, anyone who hasn't seen James Liberty Steele wrestle, you just got a small taste on 205 Live. I mean, I've seen you wrestle, and I'm going to go into this a little later. Every single match that I've seen is just an exciting match. You really, really talented in the ring, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later. But just in case there are people out there who aren't familiar with James Liberty Steele, why don't you tell them right now what James Liberty and who James Liberty Steele is all about?
James Liberty is the American ambassador to professional wrestling in Atlantic Canada, and he represents Donald Trump's America.
Does that get you a lot of heat up there representing? It must being
absolutely. From the moment my music hits to the moment I'm done, they just shit all over me all the time. I'm sorry if I can't say that on here, but
no, it's okay. It's okay. If you want to curse, it's okay. Feel free. It's not a G-rated show.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So you go out. So you go in the ring, and I've watched a couple of matches. I don't recall. So you go in the ring, and you're pro Trump, huh? You just go out there and praise Trump. Is that? And of course you're going to get heat. So is that basically what you're doing out there?
Well, the gimmick really just started when Donald Trump was running for office. So when IHW approached me to come work for them, they already had a guy by the name of Steele there in Brody Steele, and he's one of the biggest names in the Maritimes.
Yeah.
He's been wrestling for at least 20 years,
sure,
or maybe more, and he's been all over the world. So to bring me in as James Steele would kind of like not tarnish or hurt his name, but it's a different attraction, right? So they wanted to keep him as the only Steele in IHW, and all due respect and all respect that I have for Brody Steele, I had no problem switching my name and doing all that. I just wanted to work. So Kevin Tyler was like, can you think of any name that you would be willing to use? And I was like, just throwing out different things. And one that I threw out was James Liberty. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, you used to do that American gimmick. And I was like, yeah. So we started it with that. And then next thing you know, he's like, yeah, well, we'll use James Liberty and you're pro-American. I was like, I'll do you one better. Donald Trump's running for the United States presidency. And I said, I'm going to be all Trump. And that's it. And nobody here actually believed he was going to win. Myself, the lesser of two evils, him or Clinton. I don't really want to get into the political talk.
Yeah.
But so I went all Trump on it. And meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, what happens if Trump loses? What happens if Trump loses the election? What happens with my character? What happens with my gimmick? And then when Trump won the election, I looked at Kevin. I was like, well, looks like we're going to run with this for a while now. We got at least 4 years.
At least 4 years, yeah. Going to get at least 4 years out of it. So that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, and you mentioned Brody Steele. You said he's one of the biggest names. And not only one of the biggest names, I think he's one of the biggest people I've ever seen. Is just a humongous monster of a man, that Brody Steele. And Kevin Tyler, he's the owner at IHW. Is that correct?
He's the promoter, yes.
Promoter, yes. That's in case you're unfamiliar, IHW is innovative hybrid wrestling out in Atlantic Canada, and you guys have a big show coming up against Smash Wrestling, and I think you're taking on September 9th, I believe. You're going up against Chip Chambers for the IHW TV championship, which he took from you. So that's what can we expect in that ladder match? I know I'm jumping around. I was going to ask this later on, but since we're into IHW, just figure I'd ask you now. That's going to be a war of a match, man.
Chip Chambers is a hell of an athlete, hell of a wrestler. I've been in the ring with him countless amount of times. Him and I always excel. And September the 9th in Fredericton, New Brunswick at the Ville. Me and Chip Chambers ladder match. If anybody's unfamiliar with what a ladder match is, you got to climb the ladder, grab the belt. All I can say is it's going to be a match like myself. I've only done one ladder match, and it was way years ago. So even for me, this is going to be a test to how much pain and punishment I can take, but at the same time, how much pain and punishment I can deliver. And I guarantee you on September the 9th, I am walking out IHW television champion, whether or not Chip Chambers likes it or not.
Well, absolutely. There you go. I'm rooting for you, man. I've seen you in a lot of matches, and you've taken on, from Titus to High Flying Fantana to Chip Chambers, as you mentioned. But there's one name that stands out for me, and I think my favorite matches that I've seen you in is against Dick Durning, and I know you had a huge feud with Dick Durning. Those matches, the chemistries you guys had in the ring together was just about flawless. Would you say that he's one of your favorite opponents, Dick Durning? Because I could watch a James Liberty Steele Dick Durning match over and over again and never get tired of watching it. Is he one of your favorite opponents?
Dick Durning is one of the my most favorite guys to work. Every time him and I work, there's nothing but hard hitting. It's action packed. It's we tell a good story, and Dick and I've had some pretty good matches. We've done things like strap match. We've done a countless amount of street fights. Just different things like that. And for me to be in what had been Dick's final segment that he took off there, for me to be in that final segment meant a lot to me, because Dick helped mold me into who I am today, and I can't take that away. I can't take that from him. I spent countless amount of times in the training center, training with different guys, different things, different people. And Dick was one of those guys that was like, if he'd see something and he was like, this is not it. This is he'd open my eyes in ways that I've never imagined.
Yeah, you said pretty good matches. They weren't pretty good matches. They were tremendously good matches between you and Dick Durning. And I know I
try to keep it humble.
I'm sorry?
I try to keep it humble.
Well, yeah, no. Well, I'm keeping it. I'm unhumbling it, because it's you guys had tremendous matches, and I know he kind of stepped away from the game, but he comes back, every now and then. Are we gonna get to see one more James Liberty Steele Dick Durning match in the future?
If the cards play it right, who knows? You never know, right? I'm always willing to get in the ring with Dick Durning, because I know I'm better than Dick Durning.
Okay, there you go. If Dick Durning's listening, James Liberty Steele is better than you, Dick Durning. So come on back and prove him wrong, Dick Durning.
Anytime, any place.
Absolutely, man. So let's go back to the beginning for James Liberty Steele. When did you first become interested in professional wrestling, and how old were you when you decided, what, I want to be a professional wrestler, I'm going to go for it?
I was 5 years old. 5 years old, I was watching WrestleMania, and I looked at my mom and I said, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. And she looked at me and she's like, no, you're not. She's like, you're going to grow up, you're going to have a wife, kids, you're going to, have a normal job, you're going to do normal, what she would consider normal, picket white fence, all that stuff. Mind you, I never knew how to get into the business, right? So, I'm not going to say that this is the greatest way of going at it, but I met a couple of guys and we started backyard wrestling and kind of doing that thing. And now when I look back on it, I kind of wish I didn't. But if I didn't do it, I would have never got where I am today. So to me, I don't encourage anybody to do backyard wrestling. That's not what I'm doing right now. For me, we did a little bit of that. Got featured on the news, global news, and then Emile Dupree reached out to us. And Emile's like, if you guys want to learn, come to my school. I will teach you. And so me and this other guy, and somebody who may know him, may not know him. I don't know if you've heard of Wesley Pipes, but him and I went down to Emile's school, and we got our training, learned some things about the business, developed everything that we needed to know. And then years later, we met Wayne Kreiderman, and he's the trainer of Body Slammer's gym, and he used to run Al Snow's gym in Lima, Ohio, when Al Snow got called up to WWE. So learning from Emile and then learning from Wayne developed me developed my skills a lot better. But it wasn't until like 2006, maybe 5, somewhere around there, that I learned of the Shediac school, with Emil, and that's when I started getting training.
All right, cool. There you go. So, what was the training like? What was like your first week of training? I guess you had to go through the initial drills of taking bumps, and was it hard at the beginning, or did you take to it right away? So, what was the initial training like?
I took to it right away.
Okay.
I took to it right away. The bumps, all that stuff. One thing I didn't really understand a whole lot was psychology and being able to tell a story while you're in there. And that came years later. That's where Wayne came in, and that's where Wayne kind of opened up my eyes in different things and psychology and how to put things in certain places. But the initial training, it was intense. Like we'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd catch a bus. We'd go to Shediac. We'd get there about noon hour. We'd train for 2 hours, catch a bus, and we wouldn't get home until like 8 o'clock at night. So really, we only had like 2 hours of training, but we were gone all day. So it was a long day. They were long days, but they were physical days. And when we were there, they spent that extra time with us, and they made sure that we were picking it up. And it was I won't say intense, but it's not for everybody, because you got to be physically fit. You've got to be mentally. You got to refocus your brain on a lot of things that you would never think you would have to do. But it's a physical fit sport that if you're not in the right mindset and you don't have any physical training, it's not for everybody.
So
I learned that the hard way.
So how long did it take for you how many weeks of training did it take before you felt comfortable enough to make your debut, which was 2006 in Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling? How many weeks did it do? Was it a few months, or how long did it take until you felt comfortable to get into the ring for the first time?
I honestly can't remember exactly how long the training was. I think it was like 5-6 months, and then they stuck us in the ring. So for 5 or 6 months of training, and then I get a spot on the Atlantic Grand Prix 50th anniversary tour. We had a couple of spots, couple of nights. So that was a little bit of wrestling that I did there, but it had to keep going, had to keep training.
We actually spoke before. We did an interview with Kayfabe today, and I thought this was a humorous story. You told me the story of your debut match where you actually fell off the top rope or something. And it was a little embarrassing. What was that story again? What was that story again? Your first match, and you kind of slipped off the top rope.
Bring it up. I knew it always comes up, and so I'm doing my thing in the match or whatever, and I climbed the top rope, and for some reason I don't know why my mind was thinking climb the top rope. I had nothing to do up there. I just decided to climb it, and when I climbed it, I don't know if my leg tripped or if me not being up there enough, I fell off and I just fell to the mat. And I remember laying there and I remember punching the mat because I was so mad at myself at the fact that I would do something so stupid. And I was like, I don't even know why. Like, it was just, I wanted to climb the top rope for some reason. But yeah, I did fall off the top rope. And mind you, that was the first time I was ever on the top rope, so it's okay. I hope.
Well, that's not so. I mean, you had family members watching as well, so I know you had mentioned it was pretty embarrassing, but it wasn't that embarrassing. Your first match, you fell at the top rope, not a big deal. At least you went up there. I'm sorry.
I remember my grandmother. She's like at this time she would have been in like 70s. She's like 80 something now, and I remember she's like, James, couldn't you pick a better sport? This is so freaking, I can't even use the word she said. This is so freaking ridiculous about what you're doing to yourself. She just clearly didn't get it, but it was the funniest thing I think I've ever heard. And if you ever met her, she would just melt your heart, but she's so sweet. But it was just funny how she was just like, you need to do something better with your life than this.
Than climbing up the top rope and falling off, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Like you mentioned Wesley Pipes a little earlier, and I was doing a little research, and it looks like your first big feud was against Wesley Pipes, if I'm not mistaken. would you say that that was your first big high profile feud was with Wesley Pipes? And how did that all begin?
Yeah, I would say my first big feud was with Wesley Pipes, and that was in regards to the fact that him and I were teaming together. We were known as Stars and Pipes, and I was getting ready to go away for some college because at some point my mind decided, well, I can't do this forever, and I better have something to fall back on. So I decided I was going to go away to school for a year, and he put me through a plain glass mirror.
Holy
so
smoke.
I was out a year, came back, and from the moment I came back, I brought a manager with me and whatnot, and we were really, really close outside the business. And he used that to his advantage in the fact that, he was like spitting on her, kissing her. I think at one point he had handcuffed me to the rope while he had her in the cross space. Just really irked me and get underneath my skin. So that's where the big first feud started for James Liberty Steele. That was the first big one. And then we went from immediately into that to me and John Versace. I'm not sure if you know who John Versace is.
I've read about him. I have never actually seen him wrestle, but I did read that you did feud with him. So how did that go? How did that feud with him go?
With Versace?
Yes.
So we were working for a promotion, XWA, and he was the elite champion. And I finished my feud off with Pipes, but Versace and Pipes were friends backstage. So my next goal was to become the elite champion, and I wrestled Versace 2 or 3 times, and every time it was a cheat win, he'd pull the tights, or he'd have his feet on the rope, or he'd do something dirty that he didn't beat me fairly. And so when I finally got a chance to wrestle one more time, it was me versus him, title versus my valet. And during that match, my valet accidentally hit me with a steel chair. Versace now wins, takes the belt with him, and now my valet. So for like 4 months, I've been trying to get a rematch and trying to win more or less the valet back than the title. And it led to a dog collar match between Versace and I, with my career on the line against his belt and my valet.
Wow, are those matches on YouTube? Because I'll definitely have to check them out after I'm done talking with you.
I don't think any of them are on YouTube.
Okay.
I tried to get copies of them, and it's the promoter that we work for. He's a hard guy to get a hold of and get information from. So I've been at him trying to get it, but if I eventually get it, I will eventually put it up.
All right, now the first time I saw you was against High Flying Fantana for WrestleCentre. Terrific match. Again, that's another opponent that I felt that you had great chemistry with. Now, I'm not sure. I know WrestleCentre, they're not really doing too many shows right now. But I would love to see you against High Flying Fantana against yourself. Any chance we're going to see another match? Because I thought that was tremendous. You came up a little short, but it was a great match. Kind of reminded me of Arn Anderson against Rey Mysterio a little bit, if they got together. But any chance of seeing another match against Fantana?
There's always a chance that you'll see a James Liberty Steele and Fantana someday again.
Okay. Yeah, no, again, terrific. I mean, let me ask you, how come, maybe you can answer this for me. Why is every James Liberty Steele match that I watch full of just fast-paced excitement? You seem to have a gift of making every opponent to look really, really good. Is that just years and years of practice, or is it something that comes natural? So to answer the question, why is every James Steele match that I watch, full of awesome excitement, man?
Because that's the talent that's in the Maritimes, but it's not just me. It's not just me. It's the other guy that's working there too. They have to be able to keep up, and I have to be able to keep up with them. So no matter what their style is, I have to be able to elevate my game sometimes, and sometimes people have to elevate their game to my level. So in all honesty, it's not me. It's both of us, and that's the talent that's here in the Maritimes.
No, I agree, man. And I know I touched upon it a little earlier. There's going to be Smash Wrestling Ontario versus the Maritimes. What do you think is in your opinion, the main difference between Ontario wrestling and wrestling in Atlantic Canada? I'm sure you feel that Atlantic Canada is they have the better talent, but what do you think is the major difference between the two, and who's going to win that Team Ontario, Team Atlantic Canada war that's coming up September 8th and 9th?
Well, first and foremost, this isn't the very first time Team Ontario versus Team Atlantic Canada has ever happened.
Yeah, I was gonna touch upon that. I know last year there was a little something that you had going on as well, but I didn't mean to cut you off. I'll let you talk, my man.
Last year, I led and captained Team Atlantic Canada to the victory over Team Ontario. Now, as far as the difference in style, there's really, I don't really follow a lot of Smash Wrestling. I don't know a lot of the guys that are there. I just know that some of those guys that have come out of there have made it on to bigger, better things. It would be the same here if we had the backing like Ontario. That's the problem with the Maritimes, is that we don't have that guy going, hey, look at these guys. I do, because I have Wayne Kreideman in my back corner, but not a lot of guys have Wayne in their back corner. So that's how I was able to get to WWE, was through my trainer. But in all honesty, I think Maritime Wrestling is the best wrestling in the country. And I'm not being favoritism. I think so because, one, we know how to work. We know how to work the crowd, and it's just and our storytelling is amazing.
Well, you do. You got a lot of great talent up there. Yourself, the Marcus Burke, JP Sims. I mentioned a few, Chip Chambers, Titus. So you do have a lot of talent up there. And
you can't forget Dick Durning.
Oh, Dick
Cowboy
Durning, of course.
You can't forget Brody Steele. You can't forget Julian Young. You can't forget Titus. And I think you said Marcus Burke. And the list goes on and on.
No, I mean,
Wesley Pipes is another one.
I agree 100% with you. I agree 100%. I know. Are you currently working for UCW as well, or is it just IHW right now?
I can't really go into a whole lot on that because me and the promoter we're kind of working some things out. So never know. The way it works is you gotta come to some type of agreement. And I'm not saying that we're not agreeing on anything. It's just right now the cards aren't lining up for that, but doesn't mean that down the road that they're not going to. I'm always in talk. I'm always in their ear. They know who I am. The same thing with NWE. They know who I am. We've been in talks. I've been in talks to like 4 or 5 different places that are around here.
Okay, fair enough. I want to talk about the working class hero character that you were doing. How'd you come up with that character?
Well, when I was doing the James Steele American gimmick, that was pretty much the same thing that I am now, but as James Liberty. I used to have a T-shirt that was given to me that used to say "Working Class Hero" on it. So I always wore it and was always cut off. And when I went away for school and I came back, I needed to think of something different because I wasn't coming back as the American guy anymore. I was just coming back as James Steele. And my ex-girlfriend at the time, she's like, "Well, what about the Working Class Heroes?" And so when doing that, it just dawned on me. I was like, well, why not, right? And then I had some shirts made, and then when I came back, I changed my theme song. And my gimmick, to me, the Working Class Hero babyface stood for work hard, never quit, give everything you've got, and don't stop coming. Because eventually things are going to work out for you, because it has to, because that's just the way of life, right? No matter how hard you work, rewards do come in the end. Many hands make light work, but at the end of the day, if you don't put that hard work in, you never see the fruits of your labor, right? And that's where the whole working class hero gimmick came from, right? So that's what I believed in, and I believe in that every day. Like if I don't work, then I don't have anything. I don't have a roof over my head. I don't have food on my table, clothes in my bag, gas in my wheels, right? So everything comes full circle. The heel version of that was the working class hero was the guy that was given the promotion who did less work and pretty much rubbed it in the face of the guy that works every day and gets shit on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the two difference between the two different gimmicks.
All right, man. Well, you're talking about working hard, well, and hard work paying off. It's paying off. You got to 205 Live, so you're definitely doing something right. And like I said earlier, I think that's not the end of it. I think you're going to be back there, or definitely in NXT in the near future, my man. Now you've held many titles as well during your career. Is there a favorite title that you would call your proudest accomplishment?
I don't really favor anyone more than the other.
Okay,
to me,
fair enough.
Anytime I'm given a belt, whether it be the heavyweight or the tag or the middle class weight, depending on the company that you work for, whatever they call it, to me it's just an honor to carry it, because it means that the company trusts you enough to be in that spot, because you have to be able to deliver every time you go out. And to me, them giving me that opportunity to carry that means that I have to be able to hold up that and to make that belt mean something. So, and they entrust me to do so. So,
okay, fair enough, man. That's cool. That's cool. Now let's talk about your style, man. I think you'll agree that you have an old school style. To me, you remind me of the old school guys, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. When you see James Liberty Steele, you're not going to see any 450 splashes or any flips or anything like that. Do you think about those guys when you're in the ring and you try to be more old school, or is it just just something that just came naturally?
In developing my gimmick and developing the way I wrestle, I wanted to stand out. I wanted to stand out differently than the other guys, right? You got your Fantanas and your Dick Durnings that can do all your flippity flops, right? Then you get your, guys that work modern style now. And then the craft of the 80s, 60s, and 70s is gone. So me, I wanted to bring that into full circle. I wanted to bring that and use that as myself. So I watch a lot of the guys like Arn Anderson. I watch Tully Blanchard. Guys that worked back then, in the 80s, and just their style, like Rick Rude, all them. Mr. Perfect, another one. Always watch these type of guys, these type of styles in the 80s, because I wanted to use that 80s style. And a lot of my moves that I do are from guys in the 80s. I do Savage's axe handle. I do Mr. Perfect snapmare with the neck twist.
Sure.
Arn Anderson's spine buster.
Yep.
These are things that I do because I bring that generation to full light now. Even the sleeper hold. How many times in wrestling do you see the sleeper hold? You don't see it very often anymore.
No, not
so
too
if
often.
I'm doing things that people haven't seen, right? Especially the younger kids, right? Because these younger kids, they're used to seeing like the big 450s and the 780s and the the swantons and everything else. But when they see a legit sleeper hold, they're like, "Whoa, what the hell is that? I've never seen something like that." Kind of makes them think, "Well, geez, a lot different than the other guys." So when they're like, "Man, what was that guy that did this or whatever? Did that cool spine buster move?" Yeah, spine buster is still relevant today because of the fact that people still do it. But it originated from the 80s, and even probably even further than that.
Oh yeah, well I've seen your spine buster, and you have a devastating spine buster. It's one of the. I'm sorry. It's one of the moves that when I first saw you against High Flying Fantana, when you hit that spine buster on him, I'm like, this guy is Arn Anderson. This guy reminds me of Arn Anderson, no doubt, man. So that's definitely one of my favorite moves by you. Now you've worked as face and heel in your career. Do you prefer? I prefer you as a heel, but do you prefer working as a face or as a heel?
To each their own. It depends. Depends where I'm at, who I'm working. I have no major preference. If I'm out there and I need them to boo the crap out of me, then if I get them to boo the crap out of me, I did my job.
Sure.
And if they love the other guy, then I definitely did my job. if I go out there and I need them to cheer me, and the guy that I'm working is doing everything he can to make them shit on them or shit on him, and they're cheering me at the end, I did my job. At the end of the day, it's a job, and at the end of the day, I got to do what I got to do. And as long as I'm getting the reaction that I need, it doesn't matter to me.
Are there anybody out there that you haven't faced yet that you would like to face? Anyone from like the WWE, Global Force, Ring of Honor? Is there anybody that you would like to go one-on-one with that you haven't gone on, that you haven't met in the ring yet?
Of course, there's always guys that you want to get in the ring with, and they're just, whether it be timing, whether it be age, whether it be, you're not in the same company that they're in. I can't pinpoint anybody specifically. I mean, I'm always willing to step in the ring with anybody. My boyhood dream was to be in the same ring with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, but we know where those guys are at in their careers. Those are two of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Undertaker, another one. But those are guys that, that are in WWE and whatnot, and totally understandable that where they're at in their age compared to where I'm at. So as far as like today, I don't really have anybody in mind. I guess if I really, really wanted to look at it, I would say Chris Jericho. I'd really like to get in the ring with Chris Jericho. He's the only Canadian left, I think, that from way back when. I understand there's Canadians now like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but I would say Chris Jericho. I'd love to work Chris Jericho.
Okay, I think you and Kevin Owens, who you just mentioned, I think that would be a tremendous match. James Liberty Steele against Kevin Owens would be a fantastic match. So what product do you watch? Do you watch the WWE? Do you watch Global Force? Do you watch Ring of Honor?
Go ahead.
No, what product do you watch?
Nope, my bad.
That's okay, my man. Hello?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm sorry. What product do you watch today? Do you watch Ring of Honor or Global Force Wrestling? What's your product that you watch today?
Well, I generally just watch WWE or whatever, but I don't even get a chance to watch that all the time with my regular work and things. I mean, I do record it, and I do, switch it on when there's, when I've got some spare time, but I don't get a chance to really sit and watch absolutely everything that's going on. Like, yeah, I do know, I keep up with what the storylines are, but, I don't get a chance to watch every match that they have on Raw or SmackDown. But I am familiar with what's going on in the actual product. The other night I watched that McGregor and Mayweather boxing fight.
Yeah.
I don't watch boxing, and I don't even watch MMA. But that attraction alone between the two mouthing off at one another was enough to catch my attention to want to switch it on and to watch it. So I don't really get a chance to watch a lot of the wrestling that's on TV, but I do watch it when I can.
Okay, that's good. I'm a fan of all wrestling. I watch it all. I watch Ring of Honor, Global Force, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, of course IHW when I can. So I watch it all, man. And so what do you do when you're not wrestling? When you're outside of the ring? What does James Liberty Steele do for fun?
For fun, I just like everybody else. I work. I got a a Monday to Friday job kind of thing, but. Okay. I spend time with my significant other. We're always doing things together and things like that. And my brother just had a child like 2 years ago.
Okay.
I'm always spending time with my niece and family. I'm a big family guy, and I can't stress how important family is. So I'm always spending time with them and in that regard.
Oh, I gotta agree, man. family is very important. I mean, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I tell you, they grow quickly, man. I remember it felt like yesterday she was just a little baby crawling around, and now she's 14 years old with her own iPhone, and she wants me to leave her alone all the time. So they grow up fast, man. So yes, family time is very important. But before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to plug? Any websites? Any Facebook, Twitter? Anything you want to plug? Feel free, plug away, man.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Facebook, James Liberty Steele. I have a regular Facebook as well as an athletes page. You can follow me on Twitter at James_Steele101. And I do believe my Instagram is JSPro101.
Okay. And any other upcoming matches besides the one we discussed, September 9th against Chip Chambers? Any other matches coming up?
Right now I have September, I've got them all written down, but the two that stick out the most are the 8th and 9th. Of September. By the way, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention this yet, but October 15th, the wedlock ceremony between Marcus Burke and his significant other. Who knows? James Liberty Steele may make an appearance.
All right, man. Well, I hope we don't get in trouble if you weren't supposed to. Announce that, but that's cool.
Well, I'm not 100% sure if they said they were going to announce it, so I just don't know exactly when. So.
Okay, fair enough, man. All right, well, James, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Had a great time, and anytime you want to come back, have anything on your mind, always feel free, my man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. It was an awesome time.
Okay, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, man. Well, that was the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis Carlan. Once again, I'd like to thank my guest, James Liberty Steele. And until next time, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye, and stay safe, everybody.